Kellyanne Conway, a former senior advisor to former President Trump, posited in an op-ed published Monday that he should choose a person of color to be his running mate upon clinching the Republican nomination. Conway, who was Trump's 2016 campaign manager and later his counselor in the White House, listed Senator Tim Scott, Senator Marco Rubio, and Representative Byron Donalds among the options. What a lousy roster. Conway wrote in the New York Times that Trump's eventual vice presidential pick should be focused on who can help him win the general election, help him govern in a second term. With a crisis on the border, economic dissatisfaction, fears about crime, a parents' rights renaissance, and multiple wars and threats across the globe, Mr. Trump's deputy must be able to navigate chaos and challenges at home and abroad, Conway wrote. She also argued Trump's running mate would need to be able to mitigate the damage and turn the tables on the issues of abortion. Democrats have raked up several key electoral victories in the roughly 2 years since the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade. Taking all of this into consideration, if I were advising Mr. Trump, I would suggest he choose a person of color as his running mate, depending on vetting of all possibilities and satisfaction of procedural issues like dual residency in Florida, Conway wrote. Not for identity politics a la the Democrats, but as an equal helping to lead an America First movement that includes more union workers, independents, first-time voters, veterans, Hispanics, Asian Americans, and African Americans. Conway, who in 2016 advocated for Trump to pick former Vice President Mike Pence, wrote Rubio, Scott, and Donalds would be on a list of potential 2024 running mates, as well as former Trump cabinet official Ben Carson, Representative Wesley Hunt, and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, who recently suspended his 2024 campaign and endorsed Trump. Trump has said he has an idea of who he would choose as his running mate, but has downplayed its significance to the results in November. The former president is leading President Biden in national polls, as well as polling out of key swing states like Michigan, Arizona, and Georgia. Biden is leading Trump in Pennsylvania, according to recent polls there. Conway predicted Trump will keep us all guessing with his eventual choice. One thing he doesn't need to do is rush the decision, she wrote, adding his running mate selection will matter. In helping to chart the course of history, begin with his chances in November, then fixing the chaos and crisis left behind from Mr. Biden and Ms. Harris, and eventually passing the baton to a future leader of the movement and center-right coalition he founded 9 years ago. So, I was so anxious to do this article, and I'm kind of annoyed now because I've actually had to record this 4 times. I got interrupted twice, and I had a gaffe at the start of my third attempt. But you can't say you're not trying to play identity politics while playing identity, because like identity politics is when you pick somebody because of their of something related to them that's usually having to do with minority status, their religion, their ethnicity. And you can pick people who are of minority status and it's not identity politics. So, for example, when Bush selected Condoleezza Rice as his Secretary of State, this is a lady who had been National Security Advisor, had worked for his dad, really was someone that no one would say was just unqualified, came out of the blue. Very experienced lady, and that's one of the reasons why she was confirmed in the Senate with, I believe, over 80% of the senators on board with her confirmation. So that's an example of not playing identity politics, just happening to pick somebody who's of minority status. If Conway had come out and said, I want Trump to pick Rubio or Donalds or Scott or Ramaswamy or one of these other people because they have these different attributes that can be beneficial to him in a re-election campaign in a possible second term. Okay, whatever. But she didn't do that. She goes, he should pick a person of color to broaden his chances of being able to put together this coalition of in America First that includes, and then we can go through the groups, but it's like, it's so blatant. And it's like, you're doing it. That's why you're trying to say it's not for that reason, but it is for that reason. Union workers already, their president, one of the UAW president called Trump a scab. There's a lot of union workers that are disenfranchised with him and with Scott. Independents are not feeling the 91 criminal charges that Trump has. First-time voters tend to be younger people, which tend to vote Democratic. Veterans, maybe. Hispanics, I mean, Trump was happy that he got 30% of the vote, which is not anything to brag about. That still is a minority of their vote, but, still mostly going to Democrats. Asians, again, mostly Democrat, and then African Americans, they can't even get like they're talking about Brexit and all the rest. There's a lot of blacks who are just not voting. Period. Like they're not voting for Democrats anymore. Yeah, but they're not switching over to Republicans in massive droves or anything like that. So like if I don't vote for a Democrat, I usually vote for the Green Party or an independent. So it's not. And there are some Republicans I have said I liked or praised in the past, but my point is that there a lot they to pretend that Trump is doing well with blacks is just statistically not true. Um, to go through these specific people, the only one on that list that I think has a chance of getting picked is probably Tim Scott, because he's someone that ran against Trump in the primary, got out before voting started, endorsed him. Now he's getting married, which a lot of people think is probably out of a desire to have a higher chance of being picked, because Republican donors were apparently concerned about him being single, which is stupid because, if this man doesn't want to get married at 58 or 59 or whatever, he shouldn't have to. Like, I couldn't care less about who Tim Scott dates, but, these, let's just say a lot of these donors are not friendly towards possible alternative lifestyles. I'll put it that way. They have a problem with these types of things. So he's the only one I could see getting picked. Rubio has vanished from him and Trump had a very nasty campaign against each other back in 2016, where Trump called him Little Marco and Rubio was talking about his hand. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Trump could forgive him. They could work together, but no one's talking about him. And honestly, if I had to do a list of Trump's potential running mates ranked, Rubio wouldn't come in the top 50. Not because he's not conservative or whatever. He just simply is not someone that really is talked about or is doing anything that would make me think, yeah, Trump is going to pick it. It's the same thing with Byron Donalds, where besides the fact that it's somebody from Florida, and I don't think Trump would pick anyone from Florida because he's trying to claim his residency over there with Mar-a-Lago. If he's going to pick any person in the House, like any current sitting member of the House, I think it would be Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I don't even think she's going to get picked. So that's another problem. But then we go to these other people. Ben Carson, that guy vanished after being housing secretary. Like, completely disappeared. You never hear from him anymore. I just can't see someone just totally blinking away off the face of the earth like that, suddenly, turning into Trump's running mate. Like, I know they smoothed their relationship probably over the years of his presidency, but I don't see it. I don't know who this other Wesley Hunt doesn't ring a bell. I don't know much about him, admittedly. Although I still stand by, if any representative gets picked, it's going to be Green. I think that's like the most obvious thing in the world. She's more in line with Trump than any other sitting member of the House, and definitely as a person who is a good fundraiser, who's got a little bit of national recognition, I think he would be more swayed to her than someone who's kind of more low key like Scott. Ramaswamy is certainly not getting picked, and it comes down to, even though he praised Trump, Trump still attacked him right before the Iowa caucus, and I just can't see him choosing someone that stayed in until voting started, because Trump could be like, "Oh, you tried to take votes away from me." So I don't think any of these people have a snowball's chance in hell of getting picked besides Scott, and even he's like, I think if Trump picks anybody, it's going to be, and I could be wrong, but if I am, then it is what it is. I'm just going to tell you what I think. I think if he picks anyone, it'll be Marjorie Taylor Greene, Carrie Lake, or Kristi Noem. I think it'll be one of those three. I think even Haley has a better chance of getting picked than Tim Scott, because I really think Trump wants to do okay, Biden has a woman running mate, I will have one too. I do believe he would do something like that to try and siphon off, Biden being able to say, oh, give the first woman vice president a second term. Okay, so going back to what she wrote, because there's one more part of this I think is funny. That this vice president needs to be able to chart the course with, Christ on the border, economic dissatisfaction. Okay, what have any of these people done that would make you believe that? Like, Scott's been senator for 10 years, so wouldn't Conway be able to say, hey, look, Scott was able to do this, that's why I said that Trump's running mate is not going to give him a better chance of stopping fears about crime and addressing a parent's rights renaissance. Just it's stupid. Um, but my favorite part is where she argued that Trump's running mate needs to be able to mitigate the damage and turn the tables on the issue of abortion. Let me just say this. Overturning Roe v. Wade was one of the stupidest things Republicans have done electorally in the last 50 years, because now people who weren't even like really into politics, they weren't really into the Democrats, they kind of thought they were, clowns, the Democlowns, right? Even they are donating to them, they're voting for them, because you suddenly took this issue that was settled for decades and shifted it back into the forefront of people's minds by allowing it to be overturned, to where now, in a lot of election cycles where the Republicans thought they were going to do well or do good, they either underperform or they do horribly. Ooh, we won the House back even though it was by a few seats. Oh, we thought we were going to win the Senate, but we actually did not. So I don't think anyone that Trump picks as his running mate would be able to stop the damage that Republicans have done to themselves, the self-owning that they've done by allowing Roe v. Wade to be overturned. I think that's going to have some lasting negative electoral consequences for them in the future. Lastly, where she writes, charting the course of history, fixing the chaos and crisis left behind from Biden and Harris, and eventually passing the baton to a future leader of the movement and center-right coalition. Well, the thing is, like, I don't know why anyone would want to be Trump's running mate, because you should already look at how he treated Pence and know that that's going to be you. If you do something that's out of line with him, you're going to be a pariah as well. Like, again, you go back to 2017, 18, people thought Pence was going to be running in 2024 and leading the polls and, the next leader of the MAGA movement. But no, he fizzled out. Didn't even make it more than 4 months of campaigning. So I just think these running mates are not feasible. They're not people that Trump is likely to pick or that he should pick. And I think that you're probably going to see him go with a lady like Noam or Green or Lake. But if it doesn't happen with one of those three, I think the only one that's here that could get picked is Scott. This is a identity politics article masquerading as some kind of electoral strategy, and we're not falling for it.